Hey folks, welcome back. Thank you for being here. My name is Cynthia. Kind of excited because I got an idea. We'll see how it goes. I haven't done any practice runs yet or anything, but I had an idea to do a layout inspired by this game, which is called the Ungame. This goes way back to I think the late 70s or mid 70s maybe. A lot of therapists use this deck. This is kind of a useful tool that you can use to spark conversation, to get to know people, including to know the deeper sides of people in your life, like your family and your loved ones. And so I thought that it might be a cool, there's a way that you play this game that's designed to be used that inspires trust among people and not any kind of like blowback or whatever for the answers that you might give. And I'm aware that this is just a video I'm putting out, so it's not like you're going to necessarily be interacting with me as I do the layout. But I wanted to experiment at least and try drawing a card from the Ungame deck to set the tone for the reading. And we'll see if it works okay or not. I'm curious about it. I just ordered these because I had a colleague in my past that used to get really lovely results, and her clients really liked working with this, working with these cards. And so the card that I draw for the question is going to be the question for the layout, and I'll try to tailor it a little bit if it doesn't quite make sense for a card reading. I hope you're doing well. I've been definitely struggling lately. Nothing that feels unmanageable, but definitely feeling tested on multiple levels, in relationships, financially, trust issues, things like that, that I feel like I have the challenges in hand, especially when I remember my strengths, but it's one of those trying times in life where you wake up every morning feeling like you got to kind of armor up to keep going, to get through a difficult time. And I feel like I've also done a lot of healing that has helped me know that I can get through this, even though sometimes waking up to the reality is a little overwhelming and challenging. So I'm sending out this good smoke to you and using it to kind of clear the energy here for the table. I also got inspired to use the Marseille deck, which I haven't used in a while. And a while back on the community part of this page, I posted somebody else's video about the history of the Marseille deck and the art, which is really interesting, that has some connections to Botticelli. The Marseille deck was not actually made in Marseille, France. It was created in Italy, to my understanding, but its first printing took place in Marseille, in France, which is why it's called the Marseille deck. But most tarot has origins in Italy and in Italian folk magic. It's also been used by Christian people in the past, especially Christian mystics and monks, to use kind of as a soul-searching tool, like a spiritual inquiry tool. And there's a lot of really amazing history to tarot. I recommend looking into it if you're someone that likes these readings, because it's more than just a divination tool in modern times. It's had a lot of history of myth and art and spirituality. So let's ask the Ungame here to set the theme for us. What's going to be a good theme for this layout? And I'll trust that people who this reading will benefit will find it, or it will find its way to them. The other thing too is that these candles might go out while I'm working. Usually I let my tea light candles burn down all at one time, but last time I had them burning, I went out, and so I didn't want to leave them burning, and they might actually go out while I'm doing the layout here. So the deck comes in two sections. The first section is more like less intense, less deep, kind of more like fun, getting to know you type questions, like icebreakers. And then deck two, which is the deck I'm pulling from, is going a little deeper than that and asks the players to be a little bit more vulnerable. So if you're a therapist, I recommend this if you are running into a need to have some more facilitated discussion amongst people, besides your own inquiries, right? This has really been well designed, this game, and it's incredibly popular. And you don't need to be a therapist to use it. I recommend it if you're just wanting to kind of spark healthy communication in your family. Or you can even suggest it to your therapist. It's available to everyone and it's very affordable. I think I bought this one for like $12. And since I'm going through tough times, I thought I'm going to try to look nice. I'm going to put my corset on. And I paid a little pretty penny for this corset. It's a Chantal Thomas corset. I love it. It's a little bit challenging to put on by yourself. I think it'd be a lot easier if you had someone behind you hooking the hooks. But I went for it because I thought I want to look good. Even if I'm struggling, you know, it's nice to kind of invest in yourself like that, to make yourself feel good, at least for me as a Leo. How do you feel about being bound by a schedule? So that's a great question. Are you somebody that likes to work within a timeline or a schedule? Or are you somebody that struggles with that and likes to have a little bit more freedom in your way that you approach your life and your day-to-day choices and decisions? The way that I'm going to ask Tarot the question is, because I saw the word bound in here, and binding and bound energy is a common energy in esoteric discussion. So I'm going to ask, like, how are you feeling about feeling bound by some type of parameters in your life or limitations? It doesn't have to be a schedule, but it could be. So what is happening, and how are you feeling about being bound or constrained by some type of binding, right? Something that binds you or that makes you feel like you're not necessarily in control and that you have to work within this bound. An image just came to mind of Rapunzel, which is interesting. Rapunzel, if you remember that myth or fairy tale, she gets bound up in a castle, basically placed in a castle, where she's never allowed to come out, but her hair grows really, really long, and then a prince comes along and they begin having their meetings where he climbs her braids up to the window where he can come in and visit her. And somewhere he gets tricked along the way. An evil witch or something, I think, trades places with her, cuts her braids, like maybe a wicked stepmother or something. Those are often themes in fairy tales, especially Grimm's fairy tales. And then hangs her braids out and coaxes him up one night for his normal visit, and then somehow binds him as well. So binding. How do you feel about being bound currently? What's got you feeling bound? And again, this is from the card game, the Ungame, because it's not a competitive game, right? I'm not getting paid by the Ungame company. It's just a resource that's extremely affordable, and especially if you're not somebody who feels like you can afford therapy, but you would like family therapy, for example, this can serve as that, you know, to some degree for you. So how are you feeling about being bound? How are you coping with being bound? What has you bound? What's some advice for you about getting unbound? It's interesting too that I wore a corset, because a corset is a binding garment, right? In times past, corsets were often so tightly bound around somebody that's where women would faint, and had to have those chairs that were designed for them to faint onto, which is that's really being willing to suffer for fashion. I'm very much a fair weather fashion. I like to look good, but I don't want to suffer all day and night to look good. I don't wear a lot of heels anymore. I used to. In fact, my friend Caitlin told me that back in middle school, we went to we grew up in the same small town, and she told me that one of the gossips that went around, or that somebody said about me one time, was CynthiaVogel always wears pumps, which is funny because I did like heels at one time, and I never wear them anymore because I don't find them comfortable. So what has you feeling bound? What can you do about this feeling of being bound, either by time, by a schedule, bad timing, circumstance, people, right, or even magic? Thank you for being here. I have these birds that I absolutely adore. They're called towhees, and they live. I have at least 2 families that live right near me, and recently there's one that seems to have not found a mate this season, and so sometimes I hear his calls searching for a mate, and it makes me a little bit melancholy, so I try to sing and talk to him myself. And then there's also a pair that has just had their little fledge, and it's been so delightful for them to come here, and I get to see the little fledge growing up. It's really wonderful. So even when times are really rough, I've got a lot that surrounds me that's very beautiful that I can be grateful for, and that's helping me cope. So I'm really grateful to those little towhee spirits that come around my home. I can hear the fledge outside right now. That's what made me think of it. So at the bottom of the deck we have the Ace of Cups, which is a nice omen in my opinion, which represents unconditional love. How can you cope with feeling bound, and what has you feeling bound? Whatever it is, whatever circumstance, we're going to get into it clearly, but whatever the circumstance is, it's working in your favor, because the card and the energy where everything is headed is a very powerful card. It's card 3 in the major arcana, which is the Empress. So that's where things are headed for you. Either you're going to have an Empress come into your life who's an incredibly abundant, soft, sovereign, wise, fruitful woman, right? Or feminine energy. So that could be you fully on her throne, right? The throne is also a meditative symbol. You can meditate on receptivity and regality and royalty within yourself by meditating, being seated in your throne with your root chakra, deeply grounded in the throne, and your crown full of jewels, right? The jewels of the wisdom and the jewels of insight. So let's see here. In the cornerstone, we have a 4 of Wands energy, which is also a really lovely energy to show up with this Empress. It's a card of completion and of joy and of even things like marriage and wonderful gatherings of loved ones. So this is not a negative energy. This wouldn't be something necessarily that would make you feel bound, but it could be relative to some of these other cards here. Because right next to the 4 of Wands is the 4 of Cups, and that can be a card of feeling like those that you've celebrated with in the past, loved ones, family, even a marriage, for example. Marriages can definitely end up having people feeling bound versus liberated. Marriage can often be experienced as something that someone that you might regret that you're now having to separate from, for example. So while it may have at one time been everything you were hoping, most people don't get married when they're unhappy with their partner. You know, I mean, it happens, it's not unheard of, but usually you have dreams that you're imagining that are going to come from something like this marriage. And in fact, that's actually coming through is a marriage. It's a romantic relationship. It could be a symbolic marriage, but we'll get further into it. I think it's a legitimate, committed partnership with someone, because a symbol of the 4 of Wands is a wedding canopy, and it's coming through more as I describe it. And what's been difficult is that you may have felt like you weren't equally matched to your partner for some reason. The 4 of Cups is not a very joyful card, especially compared to the 4 of Wands, but it's the realm of the heart. So you may have found yourself in a marriage or in a committed relationship or a committed family agreement with someone, and you started feeling like this person doesn't see me, or this person doesn't appreciate me, or I feel like I'm giving a lot and the person can't see it. They still want to know what else I can do. Like, what have you done for me lately? It just came through the song, which I love. I'm not, I don't think that's the wrong energy, but someone could be in that energy, could have been in that energy with you. Like no matter how you tried to show up, they still were not satisfied for some reason. Or it could also be you, that this situation has gone so stale that you've recognized like there's no growth here. It's stagnant. We're not offering each other anything anymore, or what I'm offering, they're not able to receive, and vice versa. That's kind of coming through. Like love languages can be something, especially since we're talking about a therapeutic game. The book about love languages sort of took the couples therapy world by storm and really taught people a lot about themselves. So this could look something like that, like our love languages don't match. I keep trying to offer this person material security when what they really want is my words of affirmation, right? So it could look something like that. In any case, it's a frustrating energy. What was once something that you had a lot of hopes hung on, this wedding canopy, now in focus you're seeing we're not evenly matched. There may not be any fault there, but it's got you feeling bound. It's not evenly matched because from your perspective, you don't feel like there's been an equal give and take. Like you may have felt like you really invested in this relationship or relationships and the other person just took and didn't give in return, or didn't value your contributions, or didn't value your essence, right? It might have ended up becoming clear to you that this relationship is not an equal, it's not balanced. Like you may have felt like you were pouring a lot of energy and devotion and time and care and attention and resource into the relationship and into your family system, and it just hasn't, don't feel like you've gotten the same in return. Or if you've gotten something, it might have been like a gesture or a breadcrumb that wasn't even really satisfying what you felt you needed. This has brought you to a decision-making period where you'd like to step into a new version of your life. The card Between Worlds from this Colette Baron Reed deck just came through. You might be feeling like you're between worlds. You've seen the light about this situation with these relationships, or this relationship and this marriage, and you are ready to step into the new. You're at a crossroads. Your vulnerability is that you felt like you kept working and working and working and trying to work on this relationship and you just weren't getting anywhere. You kept feeling like no matter what you were putting in, you were never going to get your harvest. You were never going to get your abundance. Like you might have worked and worked and worked and worked all season, and then your crops went fallow, or something happened that just made it go up in smoke. Your work may not have been seen or appreciated, or your investment of your time and your love and your care, right? It just may not have been something that ever felt like you were going to achieve a sense of peace, or like a true partnership, or a true camaraderie, or a true, like, I see you and you see me and we're coming together from an equal place of mutual regard and respect. At the heart of things is the Page of Coins. And so this can be planting the seed for the newness here. It can be maybe a gentle offer of peace that you've tried to make, or that maybe your partner or others have tried to make to you. It could be like a negotiation. We're going to maybe need to get a little bit more information about this Page of Coins. It can be a positive card, right? It can be a message of material, like give and take. Like let's say if you're trying to now end and part ways, this could be the negotiating period where the other person's going to come towards you and say, let's try this. What do you think of this as an outcome, right? It could be like an olive branch. I don't know. We're going to find out more. I'll pull some more cards about this. But this is again about feeling bound. What has had you feeling bound up? Your strength is that you have some good memories that you can kind of fall back on, either from your childhood, from past relationships. It can also be that you've recognized, like, I need to protect my inner child here because I don't feel protected in this relationship or in the dynamic. And your strength is that you see that you can be your own protector, that you can show up for yourself, that you can care for your inner child in the dynamic, either by leaving or by speaking up more for what you truly need and initiating something like this Page of Coins, like an offer, like let's reconfigure here, let's talk, let's figure out where we're missing each other. This is material. A Page of Coins is a material world, so it's not necessarily like a love gesture. It might be an offer like, let's split up, and here, I'm going to offer you this amount of money kind of thing, right? It could be very brass tacks like that. This is a strength for you though too. It may be that it's a strength that you can think back on the positive times of this relationship when you were in the Four of Wands, and that'll help you not descend into this bitter energy of like, I'm never going to be heard, I'm never going to be seen. It's like you've already accepted that you need to shift gears here, and remembering the positives about the person that you're in the current experience with, or about your own past and your own support network of friends and loved ones from your own history, are your strength that you can lean on. That really came through. Leaning on long-term friends that you know you trust, that can help kind of just emotionally support you through a tough time like this. What's nice to see here again is this energy coming where things are headed is the Empress, where you are going to attract the things that you need for your own sovereignty and for your own seating on your own throne, right? Your own empowerment, your own regality, outside of this experience that felt like pennies, or that felt like I'm working and working and working, and then my day's wages are these crumbs back from this person. And I'm not trying to malign the other person, I'm just saying this is how you have felt. This is what has made you feel bound. And this happens for sure. Where you get into a relationship and it's just unevenly matched. Some people describe that as unequally yoked. Because if you're a team moving forward, pulling the cart of your dreams together, that's a yoking, right? You're yoked together to move your dreams forward. And they'll often describe that as like this marriage or this partnership was not equally yoked. Someone might have done quite a bit more of the work to keep it afloat than the other person. But you have support, and you have joyful memories, and you have a loving community around you is what I'm feeling that is your strength. So even though you may be feeling like this situation's never going to end, you can tap into that support, and it will help soothe you through this time. The King, where did I set my glasses here? The King of Wands is something that's on your mind, in your shadow aspect of self. This could be something like you want to pull out some stops here using some magic or some creativity from within yourself to get your needs met. I don't know why it would be showing up as a shadow. A king of wands could be considered like a magician, a creator, a master creator, a sovereign creator. It didn't come out in the reverse, so it might just be that your shadow is like, get serious here, stop pussyfooting around shit and get serious and act like a king. You need to show up like a king if you're gonna really get your needs met in this equation. That's kind of what I'm hearing, and you might be typically used to being in a softer energy, or a little bit more of a, I don't want to say submissive, but more like, oh yeah, I'm adaptable, I can go with the flow. You want me to only have this? Okay, fine, whatever. Like, you might be a little too fluid, and your shadow is like, no, you need to be wise like a king here and create what you know you deserve out of this destruction. In the scene world is a Knight of Cups, so this might be somebody else coming towards you that does see you. You know, this might have kind of created like a triangle where someone else did see your value, and it brought into focus the fact that you didn't feel appreciated or loved in this situation, which happens. You know, people are human. It's not ideal that a triangle causes a destruction of a marriage or a committed partnership, but it happens all the time. It's a very common experience where someone comes across your path that thinks the sun rises and sets on you and really does think you're amazing and sees your strengths, and then you're kind of forced to look at, boy, I don't feel like this in my partnership. And that can take you on a long journey of like, so what do? Do I try to get that from my partner? What if it doesn't work? Then should I be moving on? Like, this is that crossroads that you're at. And I sense that this is for someone in feminine energy, because these players coming out are all masculines. Regardless, though, where the energy is headed is your empowerment and your abundance and your graduation into a major arcana empress status, which is where everything you want and can dream for yourself, you're attracting effortlessly without having to grind and push and be in the Seven of Pentacles energy. It's like by freeing yourself from this bound up dynamic, it's going to yield a lot of abundance just because you're going to be unbound, right? Let's pull some cards here about this page of coins. What does this mean? Does this represent like a marriage proposal? Because sometimes that can come through. Somebody's going to make you an offer. This might have been the history of the marriage being here at the center, or of these different kinds of offers from people that you're having to decide between. One that makes you feel like it's a lot of work, and one that feels effortless. That's coming through, and you're having to choose. If you're a deeply caring person, those choices are not easy, especially if you're worried about the feelings of the other parties involved, right? It can be really challenging to make those kinds of hard decisions for yourself, especially once there's a contract in place, like a marriage. And it is the Four of Wands here in the beginning, which is a wedding canopy. What about this Knight of Coins, or I'm sorry, Page of Coins here? What is this about? What does it represent? Marriage. It was about the offer. The offer, what this person can offer you may not feel on par with what this new offer is, which is a Knight of Cups, which is a truly heart-centered offer. It feels beyond what you've been experiencing, is what I'm sensing. And I'm not trying to be disparaging about the other party here, because that could just be something like it's not an even match. You have different love languages, you have different goals, you have different concepts of what marriage means. Or it could be something more sinister, right? I mean, I'm not going to try to target anyone here. I'm just saying it looks like that's what this is about weighing two offers. You have the offer of the current circumstance that's got you feeling bound, where you don't feel seen or regarded with respect or with an equally yoked connection. Or now with somebody else who has shown up in their heart, who's like, I do love you, I do see you, I would be lucky to have someone like you, right? Somebody who might be showing up for you more in a way that resonates with you, where you're like, this is kind of what's been missing. That's the key, is the offer here. Yeah, there was something sinister. This relationship was not ideal. This person may have had a lot of it's this King of Wands here shows up in duplicate in this kind of more sinister Lenormand card with the King of Wands or Jack of Wands. I'm not sure which. It might not be. Yeah, I think he is a Jack of Wands, not a King, which would be a Knight of Wands. Like somebody that's sort of looking out for number one, impulsive, going on his own creativity, throwing you crumbs. Like this is not, again, like something about this is making me feel uneasy about speaking poorly about the other party here, because, but whatever, there are toxic marriages and toxic relationships. And if we're speaking about something that has made you feel bound, this is really coming through. This commitment that you've been in, where you feel like you've been only getting crumbs or not really being witnessed for the empress that you know you are, or that you sense that you are. Like this person may not value that, or even may feel threatened by it. They may not like how you shine, for example. And now here comes somebody in the seen world who's like, I would do anything for you if I could be, you know, like and I don't mean now you're going to breadcrumb this person. This is more like something that you think could be more of an equal match. Something about this is carrying you towards an empress status, where you are going to be attracting respect, love, abundance, fruitfulness, you know, all of the things that you maybe dreamed at one time was going to come through this marriage that just didn't show up that way. What else? What's important for you to know about this situation that's had you feeling bound? What are some important choices that you can make right now as you're at this crossroads about the relationship? I love when it's so black and white and so easy to determine, right? Like the Page of Coins is offering what? A wedding ring. I like when cards work so clearly like that. It's so refreshing. When I was struggling last night, I tried to do like 3 different layouts and none of the answers were making sense. And that's usually your cue that it's not time for that. You need to just go within and rest. So stop trying to figure it out. Stop trying to have all the answers. Let some time go by here and let life reveal some things to you. And it's nice that this layout now is coming so clear, coming out so clearly. You're on the right track here towards this kind of more empress energy where you don't have to work so hard to be seen, and yet work and work and work and not even be seen or feel seen or regarded or respected. For your divine feminine energy. What's something to think about right now as you're at this crossroads? The Rescuer, card 41. You may have shown up and felt like you were a rescuer in this relationship, that you were always trying to show up for the other person, but it wasn't reciprocated. Card 41. Or if you're always rescuing your partner from something, that feels very unevenly balanced, right? That can happen in relationships where addiction is present. Often we begin with the best of intentions when diving in to provide our assistance in the form of a rescue, no matter how small it may be. But could a solution unfold naturally if just given the time? Yeah, and that's so interesting because it ties right in back to this card, just given the time. How do you feel about being bound by a schedule? You might feel desperate to break out of this situation, but time is binding you. The kind of slow-moving wheel of time has had you feeling stuck a little bit. Could a solution unfold naturally if just given the time? Focus on the lessons learned in previous challenges to help you find the solutions you are seeking today. The rescuer has a calling to service and is always selfless in their actions. They are brave, dependable, and most of all honorable, and they are able to set aside any inflated sense of self-worth that those who do not understand the calling sadly suffer from. That's great wisdom here to come through. You don't have to have it all sorted out. You may be tempted right now to be in that Seven of Pentacles energy that keeps driving you forward to figure this out right now. And it's saying it's okay to slow down and breathe a little bit and let time unfold. Let some things unfold naturally on their own. Be more in this Empress energy and let things come to you, including ideas and solutions and surprise maybe outcomes that help everybody involved, for example. The next card is the Citizen card. It's a modern garden rose. It's called the Leon rose. The first rose here was the Miss Edith Cavell rose. And now this is card 37, the Citizen. Is what you are doing in keeping with the direction and outcome you want to achieve? If not, what would you need to change for you to better align with the energies to achieve balance and success? A more balanced Six of Pentacles energy. Something that does feel equally yoked, right? It is all well and good being the rebel, but sometimes you do need to fit in, work with proven methods, and not try to reinvent the wheel to get to your goal. The Citizen is the everyday person who is focused on democracy and the betterment of the people. They are approachable, friendly, and easily connect with others. So that can help you breathe a little easier. Just know and stay in your energy of kindness, of diplomacy, of willingness to give, to get, of being fluid, not being a pushover, which is your devil on your shoulder might be saying, don't compromise. Like that's king energy, right? Like move forward, create what you want, be in your, be a man almost. And you're not that way typically. So some of that energy can help you, but you need to not forget about being diplomatic here and remembering everyone's emotions involved. And then the last card, I love it, is a wild rose. It's card number 5, the Architect. Let's see what that has to say. While problems and even seemingly impossible challenges may be arising, that feeling of being bound in 4 of Cups, 7 of Pentacles energy, this may be the opportunity to create something new or to take a different path to your goal. You're recognizing that you're at the crossroads to do something different now. Be careful not to simply jump onto a new direction just because you desire the outcome, because the foundation will not be sound. Are you ready to dedicate yourself to the making and development required? The Architect reminds us to be the maker of our own destiny, but to plan carefully and deeply before we set forward on construction, which makes sense, especially if we're talking about something like a legal marital contract. This Knight of Cups may have you wanting to like run away with him and fuck all the rest, forget about it. That's probably not very wise though. If you're in a marital contract, you need to proceed carefully and with wisdom, and not rush it. Allow time to be your ally instead of pushing and forcing, right? Allow yourself to move with the flow of time and outcome here. And then let's see, I think I'll pull, what's an animal energy to emulate to help guide you toward this more Empress energy in your life where you don't have to fight so hard for everything, to be seen, to be acknowledged, where things start coming to you, where you feel that you do have all your needs met, including the needs of your heart. This Knight may be showing up and saying, I want to give you that. And that's beautiful, but you don't want to lose your head. You still have things you have to sort out from this prior relationship. What animal energy can you emulate to help you navigate this time of these changing waters? Dolphin at the bottom of the deck. So allow yourself to feel excited and joyful about, you know, what this person or somebody like them can bring to your life. Know that that's out there for you. You don't have to settle. Divorce gets really frowned on, and that's, I think, partly because of the spiritual history of marriage as being a religious institution. But divorce has been liberating for women. I just have to say it. Like, before divorce was allowed legally, right? It was, marriages could feel like traps for women. I mean, they can also be incredibly powerful if you're equally yoked. But for a lot of women, once you were married, you were kind of trapped for many eons in human history, right? So I'm not trying to say just fuck it, get divorced. Like, that's not what I mean. I mean, you may have shown up here for quite a long extended period of time and tried your best, and it's not for you, and you can feel it in your soul, and you need to move on, and it's rough, but you have the wisdom, and it's okay. Like, you might even ask yourself, like, whose values about marriage am I playing out here? Are those my values, or is it the values of the overculture, right? Seal. Imagination, creativity, talent, idealism, flexibility, changeability. Watch out for victimization, self-denial, and regret. So the seal energy can help you be fluid. They're both two water-based animals, the dolphin and the seal. The joy and the fluid and the imagination and the creativity, talent and idealism, all of your strengths you can put towards having a wise outcome for yourself that doesn't screw another person. It's not about tit for tat and this is a transaction, I'm going to get this and you're going to have to be happy with that. It doesn't have to be in that warlike competitive energy. It can be joyful and cooperative as much as you can, at least on your end, right? But you don't want to go into victimization, self-denial, and regret. I have a loved one that a lot of times, because the emotional difficulty of ending a relationship is so hard, that it was easier for them to just be like, whatever, just take it. I just want this to be done. Well, then they ended up in a lot of regret, right? Because had they fought a little bit harder, they might have come out in a better position financially than they ended up doing, right? Or having for themselves. So breathe, work with time, as frustrating as it is. Work with the energy that's greater than yourself, and don't go move into like bitterness and one-upmanship around this dynamic here. It's a great reading and a great layout for someone, and I like how it turned out. So I think I will use the endgame and some future layouts as a guide for what the theme of the reading will be, because I like that. And I'm a therapist, so it's nice to bring in some tools from my other life, my clinical social work practice, and have them work in tandem with the esoteric cards. And they're cards, you know, there's a different kind of cards. They're therapist cards. So this one that I have here is for all ages. And again, it's called the Ungame, and you can just Google it and find a really inexpensive version. They also have like a board game version, so you can use it as a fun night with family, like with you and your kids. They're just really great at sparking conversation. and understanding one another better, especially if you follow the rules. One of the rules that I really like is that you get to answer when it's your turn to answer one of the questions cards, you get to answer and nobody gets to say anything back. It's so that you feel safe to truly say what's in your heart or your mind about something without worrying about someone pushing back. And everybody gets that same respect. So it's the more you play it, the more trust it fosters among people, and the more it reveals about maybe like who you may not be able to trust, for example, and why. So that's all. I think that'll do it, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next layout.